Hello friends, and once again welcome back to another video here for you on Life's Biggest Questions. I'll be your host, Jared Bronstein, and you need to make sure you're not only subscribed, but you also ring that bell so you can be notified of everything we question. Before we jump into this video, I want to know, are you afraid of clowns? Why or why not? Personally, they never scared me. I actually found a box in my room a few years back that had a bunch of mini clown statues and toys from when I was a baby. I always saw them as friendly, fun beings, or whatever you want to call them. But others are absolutely petrified when it comes to clowns. And come to think of it, dependent on the clown, I'm sure I would be too. More specifically, if I ran into Pennywise, the clown from the movie It, I'd definitely be traumatized for life. If I lived to tell the tale, of course. So as Halloween creeps up on us, and with the release of the sequel to It, we decided to ask the question, what if Pennywise the clown was real? Now, for those of you that don't know or haven't seen the movie It, or read the novel written by Stephen King in 1986, I'll do my best to give you a summary without any spoilers. An evil entity morphs into its victim's biggest fears or phobias to hunt its prey. More specifically, Pennywise the dancing clown is one of the many forms this evil entity takes to attract younger children, which is believed to be the entity's preferred prey. The novel It told between two periods, one where the main characters are children, and then when they're much older. That's why there is a sequel to the film, which is currently in theaters. However, the novel was made first into a television miniseries starring the GOAT, Tim Curry, as Pennywise the clown. It's also been adapted into a TV show, aside from the two feature films that have most recently been released. If you haven't seen the films, either the original or the new one, I'd highly recommend, if you like being scared. They're genuinely scary, fun thrillers that'll keep you on the edge of your seat, and that's why they're fun. But what if this evil entity actually existed somewhere on our planet? How would it affect our day-to-day lives? What would we do? And who would be able to survive? In short, probably nobody. But that's not a fun answer, and this is of course fictional, so let's have some fun. As previously mentioned, this evil entity prefers children, but will kill anyone because that's what it's all about. I feel if this entity was in fact real, it would have a lot of people on edge at all times. Imagine the thought of something you fear the most being the reason for your death. A good example, spiders. Imagine if one night you're sleeping and you wake up to find a massive spider at the edge of your bed. I'm talking like 10 feet tall. Or maybe millions of spiders all over you, your room and your bed, slowly biting away at you until you just die. The thought of it is just repulsive. And unfortunately, it would be a reality if Pennywise the clown, or technically this evil entity, as it's called, existed. But in the novel and movie, Pennywise is located only in a town called Derry, which is in the state of Maine. It's a fictional town, so if Pennywise were to be real, where would it live? Well, in the past, King, the creator of the novel, admitted the town of Derry is based on Bangor, Maine, near where King lives. So it seems the only ones that would be affected if Pennywise was real would be those living in the city of Bangor. If this was the case, the city would either be totally abandoned because of its reputation, or would possibly be considered unlivable because of the evil entity that lives there. It's possible the government could quarantine the entire city, but I don't think Pennywise would even allow it to get to that point. It seems he's stealthy with his victims, and only those who know about his presence in the book and further adaptations is a group of children. I mean, how hard would it be for a child or a group of children to prove to a bunch of government officials that an evil entity dressed as a clown is killing children? It sounds childish. No pun intended. The pun was intended. So assuming that no one believes that this entity is the reason for all of these crimes, the city of Bangor would either have a ton of cold cases or would have innocent people be accused of crimes they didn't commit. Government officials and local police enforcement would waste their time and money on trying to hunt down criminals that in a sense don't exist. And the case of missing children in the city of Bangor would most likely deter people from starting families in the city in the first place. But again, there wouldn't be much of an explanation for these missing children who would eventually turn up dead, other than someone innocent being blamed for the crime. Now fortunately, it seems only one city would be affected by this. If eventually the city was abandoned, it wouldn't be an issue for anyone. But with no explanation for the random disappearances, I don't think people would abandon a city just because. It could, however, make living in Bangor much cheaper than any other state or city in the USA, because I do strongly believe many people wouldn't want to live there. Of course, there's also a possibility that the town is just full of adults, although Pennywise doesn't have a problem killing adults either. One way or another, I think it's safe to say the city of Bangor would suffer the most, unless these children figured out a way to stop Pennywise, which would be quite difficult. It seems the evil entity would be responsible for claiming the lives of as many people as it wants, until it's ultimately stopped. So how could they stop Pennywise the clown? Well, his whole being is fear-based. So if you're afraid of werewolves, and you know silver bullets kill werewolves, that's how you'd be able to kill the entity of Pennywise if he took the form of a werewolf. You also have to believe that you can kill Pennywise in order to kill him. I know it sounds strange, but that's what he's all about, feeding on your fears. If you believe he's unkillable, well, then he is, until you change your mindset. But that would just get rid of his physical form. Technically, this evil entity is immortal, because it lives in the macroverse, which is a dimension somewhere between our universe and other universes. So, in short, there would be no real way to completely get rid of this entity. Kids who are able to destroy its physical being might have the upper hand because they would know how to get rid of it and not allow it to harm them or possibly their friends and family. But for everyday people like you and me, well, we might not be so lucky. But that's why I live in Toronto. I'm not going anywhere near Maine, nor will I ever in my lifetime. Better safe than sorry. As always, I love hearing from you guys, so please let me know in the comments below what you would do if Pennywise the dancing clown was real, or at least the entity of him was real. Would you be scared, or would you just take a baseball bat to its head and play some ball? Let me know in the comments down below.
It is based on a 1986 horror novel by Stephen King about a sadistic clown called Pennywise. Pennywise's daily activities consist of tormenting and scaring a group of 7 children. It is a being that exploits the fears and phobias of its victims to disguise itself while hunting prey. It appears in the form of a clown to attract its preferred prey of young children. It was created into a miniseries and most recently a film remake. So to celebrate the release of the remake, Life's Biggest Questions asks, what if it was real? Welcome back to LBQ, I'm Charlotte Dobre. Don't forget to like this video and let us know in the comments below what scares you the most. Warning, if you haven't seen the film or read the novel, there are some serious It spoilers ahead. When writing the novel, Stephen King circles around themes like the power of memory and childhood trauma and its reoccurring echoes into adulthood. How terrifying would it be if there was a being out there somewhere that took the form of whatever you were scared of most when you were a child? The being could take the shape of pretty much anything the deep recesses of your imagination came up with as a youngster. And when you're a youngster, your imagination is a pretty vivid place. Ghosts, werewolves, lepers, spiders, mummies, snakes, witches, vampires. The possibilities are endless. The thing that's terrifying about it is it's not just about one thing that scares you. It is about everything that scares you. It is a monster of unknown origin that preys on children and humans every 3 decades. The reason why it likes to scare children is because, well, scaring the children makes them taste better. It also has the power to control minds and manipulate people into doing its bidding. If there really were a being out there that took the shape of whatever you were scared of most, life wouldn't be very pleasant, would it? If it awakes from its slumber and targets young children, after initial scares and possibly mysterious murders, a state of emergency would be declared. It dwells in the sewer system. Children would be forced to stay home or likely forced to go somewhere away from the sewer systems where it can't get to them. But I mean, where can you go that doesn't have a sewer system? I guess somewhere without a flushable toilet or sink? Perhaps children would be rounded up and sent somewhere remote. That would be a temporary fix though. If there really was a being out there that was running around murdering people, something would have to be done about it. Not to mention, if it really can control the minds of whoever it wants, somehow it will find a way to get to the children, who are likely all gathered together now. But it is a being that is not human. How do you kill or get rid of something that isn't human? To answer that, we would have to examine the story of it. So how did the characters in the story finally take him down? Bill discovers the ritual of the Chud, an ancient ritual that allows him to enter the macroverse to confront it. Bill enters its mind and discovers its true form is a mass of destructive orange lights. Bill is able to defeat it and send it back to its slumber. The losers then swear to return if it ever does. It resurfaces once again in 1984, and the losers try to kill it once and for all. In order to destroy it, we would have to set a trap by manifesting our darkest fears so it would appear before us. The characters do this in the story and get it to take it back to its lair. Once the characters are in its lair, Bill fights his way into its body, which has now taken the form of a spider. He locates its heart and destroys it. The moral of the story? We have to confront our darkest fears in order to conquer them. What do you think the world would be like if it was real? Let us know in the comments below.
Here's one for you that may also blow your mind into oblivion. Did you know that our Earth is actually on the shell of a giant turtle named Maturin? And not only that, but the turtle vomited up our universe when it had a particularly bad stomachache, seemingly during some time way back in the day at the dawn of all time and space. Yeah, take a moment to let that sink in, right? Well, obviously what we're outlining are the inner workings of the legendary horror writer Stephen King and his remarkably brilliant interconnected macroverse, because I hate to break it to you, but wherever the giant turtle Maturin is involved, so too is its evil connected counterpart, the Deadlights. So let's see what our universe would look like if they were real. Hello internet, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the most inquisitive channel on YouTube, Life's Biggest Questions. As per usual, I'll be your disembodied floating voice, Jack Finch. Just today, we curiously asked the question, what if the Deadlights were real? Sorry about that, guys. I hate to do that to you, but that's probably the best we're going to get when it comes to a visual depiction of the cosmic horror in question. For the curious amongst you, that clip was, of course, from 2017's It Chapter 1, and although there have been several other attempts at capturing the Deadlights, it kind of goes without saying, but this one nailed it. And while you may be thinking, Jack, what the hell are you talking about? Just bear with me, because for the non-Stephen King fanatics amongst you, don't worry, before we dive into this whole kerfuffle, we'll be bringing everyone else up to speed. Alright, not too much of a big deal, just a crash course in Stephen King. This should be easy. You see, ever since Stephen King published his first novel, 1974's Carrie, which you may be familiar with, he has gone on to truly earn the title the King of Horror, publishing over 61 novels and an incredible 200 short stories. It's safe to say that the man churns out horror fiction like a seasoned yeoman churns out butter. Whether it's The Shining, Salem's Lot, Misery, or Dolores Claiborne, King has cultivated one of the most impressive horror universes ever created, and of course it wouldn't be the leviathan of literature that it is if it wasn't all interconnected, because come on guys, we love shared universes, right? Well, before we address the content of the most obvious novel in question, 1986's It, we have to pinch things back a few years to 1982 and King's first installment in one of the greatest series ever written, The Dark Tower. Also, I'll try and skirt around it as much as possible, but there may be a few spoilers here, but hey guys, you were the ones that wanted to know if the Deadlights were real, okay? Because the truth is, we can't speculate on the Deadlights and its physical form, Pennywise, the dancing clown, without first spacing things out a little bit, and I do mean that literally, because the Deadlights could not exist without the macroverse first existing, and in many ways, both physically and literally, the Dark Tower is the pylon that connects all of these things together in terms of fiction and metafiction, and yeah, I suppose this question too. You see, all of King's works are interconnected by a concept known as the macroverse. Pretty much all of his novels, by proxy of the Dark Tower, are inclusive in this same space, and also by proxy, so are we, given the fact that Stephen King appears as his own character in his own novel during the events of the Dark Tower series for the sole purpose to tell the tale of Roland Deschain, the gunslinger, the most noble man to have ever lived. Thank you very much, long days and pleasant nights to you say. Yeah, if that's not confusing, welcome to the world of cosmic horror, science fiction, fantasy, because hey, it was the mid-80s and King's imagination was at its peak, for lack of a better word. Encapsulated in this macroverse are a myriad of planes of existence. Allworld, the homeworld of Arthur Eld himself, of course there's Roland and the Dark Tower's midworld, then there's Keystone Earth, otherwise known as our Earth, our planet, right here, right now, the one where Stephen King exists, you, me, and everyone else. There's the territories of the Talisman fame, the Null, Boya Moon, the list is literally endless, but we're not concerned with them as much as we are concerned with another space, the space in between all of these things, Todash space. And if that sounds mysterious and terrifying, that's because it is, and essentially it's where all of the cosmic horrors and oddities that have populated King's works originate from. The eternal darkness of Todash space, a place that, theoretically speaking, given the vast incomprehensibility of our universe, could technically, plausibly exist. So there's something to ponder for a while. Now, remember that turtle I mentioned earlier? See the turtle of enormous girth? On his shell he holds the earth. Well, although he is indeed a being of kind and noble intentions, of course, he too has to have his random, red, chaotic and evil counterpart. The Deadlights, It, the true form of Pennywise the Clown, the vile, malevolent, shape-shifting cosmic horror that forms the villain of King's 1986 novel that crash-landed in Derry, Maine millennia upon millennia ago to wreak havoc upon its poor townspeople for generations before, of course, being defeated by the Losers Club in the Ritual of Tude. An entity seemingly comprised of a natural, mystifying orange writhing lights, the true cosmic force of It, Pennywise the Dancing Clown, that at one glance can turn a human mind into total and complete insanity. What purpose could a cosmic force such as the Deadlights serve other than to destroy? You see, the 2017 cinematic depiction of the Deadlights is pretty spot on in that regard. A huge maw, rows upon rows of unnatural, disgusting teeth, ready to eat whatever unfortunate creature just so happened to stumble upon its path. Even more terrifying still, the Deadlights aren't going anywhere, so don't get too optimistic given the closing events of It Chapter 2. As alluded to in the Dark Tower series, it is thought that the Deadlights, as well as Maturin the Turtle, are eternal forces. As the Deadlights consume, the turtle creates in an everlasting cycle of gobbling and vomiting. Yeah, who said a mythos had to be couth? You see, the Deadlights, as we know them in It, are pretty much living it up on their horrible vacation, and they crash landed on Earth, and its intention of feeding upon the rawest of human emotions, fear. You see, that's exactly why its sole prey is pretty much children, the most susceptible to things that go bump in the night. Evil clowns that offer you a red balloon from a sewer grate, mummies, giant spiders, porcelain sinks filled with blood. In many ways, Stephen King's It is his rawest interpretation of the very lifeblood of his works of horror, because it is all of those things. It is an eternal force, a cosmic phenomenon that seemingly has existed in this plane of existence since the dawn of time. The deadlights are fear if it was a chemical compound, just like oxygen or helium, the cosmic building blocks of our universe. Hey, who knows, maybe it's even that dark matter thing that everyone keeps talking about. Ugh, now that's a terrifying thought, isn't it? Oh no, the Todash darkness is back, and wait, what are those strange glittering lights in the distance floating away in the bleak dismal nothingness of the eternal void? They're singing a strange song, and wait, what's that, a red balloon? Oh, of course, it's the Deadlights, Stephen King's most terrifying cosmic creation, returning once again to take a Pennywise-sized chunk out of all of us, but only if we're unfortunate enough to reside in the hometown of misfortune itself, Derry, Maine. Well, it seems that you guys had a lot to say about the hypothetical implications of the Deadlights, so let's take a deeper look-see. Hello Internet, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the most inquisitive channel on YouTube, Life's Biggest Questions. As per usual, I'll be your disembodied floating voice, Jack Finch, as today we curiously revisit the question in What If the Deadlights Were Real? Part 2. The point is though, as you may already know, the Deadlights in question are in fact a cosmic creation that can take many forms, and if you'd like to sink your teeth into the inner workings of those many terrifying forms, now is probably high time that you go and check out part 1 to this video, where we detail just exactly what the Deadlights are. But for the sake of clarity, let's quickly detail just exactly what's involved here. For those of you that don't know, the Deadlights are the true cosmic form of Stephen King's 1986 literary creation, Pennywise the Dancing Clown, the sewer-dwelling, red balloon-floating, paper boat-stealing monstrosity that feasts on children every 27 years deep in the bowels of the New England town of Derry, Maine. You see, as those events unfold, it is revealed that Pennywise the Clown isn't just the manifestation of a children's nightmare, but something else entirely, an ancient cosmic force that originates from the grim, dark nothingness in the void of space, the macroverse, the place that exists between the many worlds that unite Stephen King's universe. Essentially, it kind of goes without saying, but the Deadlights are fear itself, and luckily for you guys, you seem to have some pretty awesome things to say about this video in particular, so let's take a look. To begin, Alchemy Siega says, the most primal emotion is fear, and if the Deadlights are the embodiment of fear, then maybe it is real. Maybe it is real, Alchemy Siega. Really, I'm with you here. You see, we touched on it briefly in part 1, but from a technical perspective, in the infinite possibilities of our universe, and with everything we don't know about the nature of existence, who's to say that a cosmic force similar to the Deadlights isn't real already? Obviously, the likelihood of the literal Deadlights existing as per Stephen King's exact description is a kind of out there concept, but hey, if we agree that anything is possible, by that definition, I'm certainly not ruling it out. The thing is though, what we also have to address here is the notion that emotion would have to be from a palatable, quantifiable source. If all we are as humans is the demonstration of energy creating matter, then why can't we create a ball of fear or a cube of envy? Obviously the answer is simple. Fear and envy are intangible. They cannot be created. They are human constructs to illustrate the chemical balance or imbalance of hormones in the body to administer a feeling or the illusion of a feeling. Fear has kept us in check as a species for millennia, warning us not to stray into the dark forest or to sleep with our feet too far off the edge of the bed. It's a healthy thing that has forced us to survive, but it is our body's way of administering the correct sensations or ultimate cessations and inform our consciousness how to react. Whoa. You see, it's not entirely something that we can measure, like oxygen or hydrogen, and so just as we are creatures of carbon, the Deadlights existing as a chemical compound is pretty damn improbable. But hold on a minute, didn't we just say that fear is caused by a chemical balance or imbalance? Because in actual fact, we can measure fear. It just takes a few ingredients. Epinephrine, cortisol, oxytocin, all of these are released in the brain to create fear, and all they are a combination of hydrogen, oxygen, and other such elements. What if somewhere in the infinite void, a cosmic chemical soup is boiling up of exactly those same elements? Fear. The Deadlights. Oof, now that's a thought. Next up, Fabian Gonzalez says, what if Pennywise himself stared at the Deadlights? I was waiting for this one, and I also noticed a few other people trying to pull this same old trick, but come on guys. it's simple. And also, I'm slightly suspicious that this thought is a product of you guys just watching the movie and not reading the book. Hint, the book's great and you should read it. And also, for a human to stare into the deadlights, it does indeed drive them to madness. And it's an eternal eldritch form of red energy, and it turns a mortal's mind to mush. In fact, the only person to survive looking at the deadlights was Bill Denborough's wife Audra, and I guess that was just pure blind luck. Oh, and Beverly Marsh too in the films, but she slipped into a coma, so that doesn't count. For Pennywise to stare at the deadlights, i.e. at himself, it would just be like looking in the mirror. He'd probably smile too. Next up, Kane Bolt says he called Pennywise the physical form of the deadlights. Pennywise is just used to lure kids and its favourite form. It's nothing more than just a form and not the deadlights. I'm going to level with you, Kane Bolts. I kind of think you answered your own question here. Pennywise is the creature's favourite form, certainly. And yeah, he wears it to scare the bejesus out of the Losers Club and the rest of town because clowns are freaking terrifying. But it also takes many other forms in the novel, 32 of them to be precise. Its truest form is said to be a giant female spider, but we can't comprehend the extent of it because of our fragile human minds. And you know why we can't comprehend it? Because it is the deadlights. Also, side note, it was pregnant and breeding more, so yeah, great. Rose Smith says the deadlights are to King's universe as certain old ones were to Lovecraft. The sight of it will drive you mad. Thank you, Rose Smith, and cheers for chiming right on time to support my last point. Hey, it's almost as if someone compiled these comments deliberately, right? But yeah, the point is exactly the same. Stephen King is a huge fan of H.P. Lovecraft, the creator of Cthulhu and his entire yog-sothory of giant, tentacular alien gods. As well as being directly inspired by some of Lovecraft's creations, the deadlights are pretty much the embodiment of all things cosmic horror. Unknowable origin? Check. Drives the human mind to madness at the sight of it? Check. Has 1,000 sets of razor-sharp teeth and enjoys eating people? Double check. And finally, Joshua Abadano says, if the deadlights were real, spawns of the macroverse would be constantly wreaking havoc on life on Earth. Also, somewhere on Earth, most likely the Bennington Triangle, lives a part of the deadlights that awake every 27 years to consume as many living beings as it can. Whoa, Joshua Abadano, that got real fast. Yeah, sure, it certainly goes without saying, but if the deadlights were real, then so too would the rest of the infinite cosmic horrors of the macroverse be. Also, if you've read King's 1980 novella The Mist, or seen the 2007 movie of the same name by Frank Darabont, then you'll know just exactly how that would play out. Yeah, if spawns of the macroverse were constantly wreaking havoc on Earth, sooner or later, we'd all be trapped in a supermarket with a crazy, Bible-clutching Mrs. Carmody, waving a pistol in the air trying to sacrifice the townsfolk. Yeah, exactly. As soon as you add cosmic horror in the mix, sooner or later, someone's gonna get sacrificed.